So Meghan Markle stayed home for Harry's trip to New York City, the UK, and South Africa. Why? It's not because she was sick. It's not because of the kids. No, we're talking about the Meg here. It's actually a very good PR move, but one that she's almost guaranteed to screw up eventually. And none of the media has picked up on it yet. Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Please do consider subscribing and click the like button if you would like to. And also, I invite you to leave a comment. So has Meghan finally listened to the advice of the very expensive PR people she is rumored to have hired? Maybe. Since Prince William has some significant events this week with Earthshot especially, and Harry has also inserted himself into events for Climate Week and the Well Child Awards, and then he's making a pit stop to South Africa for whatever reason, that meant that the media angle was likely going to include some degree of the princes go head-to-head with events this week or last week, whenever it was. And had Meghan joined Harry, it would have been seen as a very aggressive attempt to overshadow Prince William. And so by Meghan staying home, and as of filming this, she has not arranged a pap walk yet anyway, she has eliminated the negative press that would have come from her joining Harry and trying, or at least looking like she's trying to overshadow Prince William's engagements. It allowed the week to be a much more peaceful time within the media. Both the brothers had solo engagements, and the news cycle was sort of plain and good about it. It's still annoying that Harry is trying to do events that no longer make sense for him in his current state, but clearly there's more going on in the background of this. And as I said in my intro, Meghan's sure to mess this up somehow. If it is a PR instruction that she actually listened to, then likely we will eventually hear about how gracious she was to stay home so as to not overshadow, and that would be a really bad mistake if she were to do that. But at this particular point, Harry and Meghan have worked really, really hard for years now to try to change their image, and it has not worked. And I would imagine anybody, even the nicest and most passive of people, would get frustrated at this point with things just not working and constantly being criticized. Now, granted, people who are genuinely nice, good people and really, really kind, out there not doing anything to bother anybody, generally won't be criticized heavily. But Meghan and Harry are, and so clearly they're frustrated at this point. They have to be. So either she is absolutely sick of the backlash from her attention-hoarding ways, or Prince Harry is really, really tired of her latching on to all of his activities, or they're both aware of how deep in trouble they are, how far they've dug their hole, that someone has finally got through to them. That not only would it not make sense for the Meg to be there with Harry, she's not directly involved with any of these events that Harry is doing on this trip, but also it would have invited horrible press and would have been a huge mistake. She would have looked desperate. They, as a couple, would have looked pathetic. They would have lost the tiny shred of respect, still barely clinging on. You get the idea. But just because it was the right thing for her to do, to stay home, doesn't mean that's the whole story. This has really fueled these Sussex split rumors. Whether their marriage is in trouble or not is one thing, but it's clear that they are in crisis mode at this point. Their image is trash. And it has been for a long time. It's like a sinkhole. It's just bottomless how low their popularity can go. None of their stunts have changed the narratives, so they've made this really big decision to split, at least professionally, at least temporarily. From a strategy perspective, it allows them to sort of test Harry on his own, and his press has turned out to be much less negative when the Meg isn't clinging on to his every move. A big part of this is that it has simply never made sense for her to insert herself into every single event that he does. Even things that he has had going since before he met her, she was plugging herself into that. She was jumping in, introducing herself first, inserting herself in a way that was really inappropriate and off-putting to the public. It was like she couldn't let Harry have anything of his own, and when she did, she was notorious for making conspicuous appearances and planned pap walks. Them doing everything together also has drawn criticism for their family life, their approach to their family life and raising their children together. That they whine about security to no end, and then they both spend time away from home together at the same time, sometimes traveling to places that tourists have been advised to avoid. Additionally, because of her incessant clinginess, they look immature when they're out and about together in the way that they have been. They look unprofessional and out of place in these settings. No one else is holding hands. It's weird. She refuses to dress professionally and appropriately and ends up looking foolish and out of touch. It emphasizes her lack of credibility and the disparity between what they're doing and what they say when Meghan is involved. The majority of this is invited simply by her presence and what she chooses to do and say. Meg is a huge part of the problem. But don't get it twisted, I'm not giving Harry a pass here at all. Just observing how the media temperature changes when Harry is doing something on his own versus when Meghan is involved mucking things up. Although Harry is very vindictive and immature and problematic in so many ways, all on his own, it's clear, and this trip is proof of it, that Harry is much more well received on his own than the Meg is. But why? Is this sexism or racism? No. Certainly not. Harry does have a connection to the events that he has attended. These are things that he was involved with long before Meghan came round. So he has a history, in some cases, of over a decade with these people and organizations. So people can understand his continued involvement much better than Meghan elbowing in on something that she's not tethered to in any way. It's very different optics here. He is delivering terrible word salad, but he's managed to not be as mic hungry as his wife. He hasn't been overdressed that I have seen thus far, and Harry has always been one to risk looking underdressed, and therefore his wardrobe comes across more relatable, even if not always being perfectly professional and polished. On the other hand, Meghan tends to overdress for events and wear absurdly, wildly inappropriate things in the wrong sorts of settings. That is very off-putting. Now, if Harry showed up in board shorts and a Hawaii shirt or the dad on vacation uniform, it would be problematic. But he's managed to avoid that sort of a fumble so far. Harry does think too highly of himself and is very attention hungry. There's no denying that. And people don't like that. And people don't support the way he has behaved and all the tantrums that he's thrown. For example, having a massive convoy dragging him around New York City is a bad look, especially when he's stopping by tattoo shops and parlors for no good reason. It's creating a bad carbon footprint. At the same time, he's having meetings with travelists. I mean, it's not a good look. Don't get me wrong. It's foolish. But the fact that he isn't being dragged into or pressured to make statements like he is when Meghan is involved is helping matters to a degree. He hasn't had any sort of lashing out at the press or weird statements issued like he did the last time he was in New York City with Meghan Markle and they had their fake car chase. All of this marks a shift, whether it's the PR advice, Meghan frustrated with her criticisms, or Harry putting his foot down and upholding a boundary, no matter. It's clear that Harry on his own does get less negative press than Harry and Meghan together, or Meghan on her own. Perhaps this will enable them to see the forest for the trees, to see how problematic Meghan is and her approach, which invites criticism to the extent that it seems intentional. The buzz is that Harry has taken a lease out in the UK and that this solo trip has the press wondering if he's trying to initiate some degree of a comeback to the royal circles, even if not to working royal duties, which seems very much forever banned, and should be. The rumors that he's been missing his old life haven't gone away for years now, and the strain the relationship likely endures from Meghan's difficult personality and poor judgment with public image is obvious. Is there hope for Harry? I'm not too sure. It all seems a little too late for him, for her, and for them as a couple. They've spent so many years being absolutely despicable, complaining, and developing a very unlikable public image. That this last week is a drop in the ocean and not a good indication of any sort of a shift. They must apologize as loudly as they complained in order to have any hope of softening their image. The press is trying to paint a rosy picture, and it's not going to work quickly enough after all the years and long history of Harry and Meghan's gross errors. The problem with the positive pieces is that they ignore the egregious behaviors and mistakes that the Sussexes have done. It is okay to admit that someone you like did some things wrong or did some bad things or made mistakes. And the fact that the positive stories are always completely blind to this and leaving this massive part of the Sussex history and story out is part of what's preventing them from softening the Sussex image. You can get all the good press that you want, but until you address your mistakes, people won't move on from it. That is why when a celebrity comes out and immediately apologizes for a mistake that they made and own it, just look at Kevin Hart, for example, and then they behave really, really carefully for a while, they can move past their mistake and not be forever identified as that guy who made such a bad mistake. When you refuse to apologize the way Harry and Meghan have, it's really hard to shake those mistakes. Harry and Meghan invested years in complaining publicly and working diligently on a smear campaign of not only their families, but the media, the UK as a whole, the monarchy as an institution, its innocent staff members, and more. Which means it's too big of a part of the story to be completely ignoring it. Saying, well, they've always been nice to me, or Harry's doing a good job here, comes off as biased and not a reliable account of what's happening. So what are your thoughts? Why do you think Meghan sat this one out? Do you think it's for the PR strategy? Do you think Harry and Meghan are initiating the early stages of a split, starting with an optics split and a professional one? I'm eager to hear your thoughts in the comments, and that is what question of the day is. What is your opinion on all this? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.